Good morning, St. Louis, as I usually say, just to remind me where I am today. I'm very, very pleased to be here. It's great to be back in St. Louis. I think I was here, I was trying to think back, the last time was about 10 years ago at a different homeless conference, and I know you guys have been working hard on homelessness for 25 years, and just so pleased to see all of your successes and how far you've come in these past 10 years. This just talks a little bit about us at CUCS, and I already mentioned that we're a provider organization. We were originally born at Columbia University, which is why we have this role to provide training and consultation. As I always remind the folks back at CUCS, training was our first service because we were training students in the graduate schools at Columbia to work with poor and homeless people in the Columbia University neighborhood. So I always say we're the oldest service. Talk about a few different sort of conceptual things that have been going on. One of the things I already mentioned is people targeting resources to need. Do you guys have, I think, oh yeah, by the way, I want to start meetings in New York the way you guys start meetings here with everybody gets a big check. That's a custom I'm bringing back to New York. If you guys could send the checks, we'd be in much better shape. But anyway, one of the things I mentioned already is targeting resources to need. In other words, having a way to look at a person, a family, and their needs and ensure that they're getting what they need and that our most expensive resources are going to the people who have the most complicated needs. We're looking at systems. People are looking just like you are at, do we have less homeless people? At the end of the day, we're spending all this money, we're spending $11 million, we're spending $50 million, we're spending $100 million. Do we have less homeless people? Do we have people staying in shelter shorter periods of time? As the mayor said, are the chronically homeless leaving our system? So that people, I think it's true, there will always be emergencies. People will have fires, people will have lose their jobs, and that there'll be some emergency need for shelter. But we should certainly be looking at, as we look at our system, are we reducing our length of stay? Are most of our people now in the shelter less than 90 days, which I think is a goal that a lot of communities are putting out. Last couple points, combining mainstream resources with homeless resources has been very effective. In our permanent supportive housing that we partner with Common Ground in New York and with Broadway Housing, and CUCS is a service provider, and our partners do the housing development. All of those buildings combine homeless people with low-income working people, and therefore use homeless resources like the McKinney dollars, but we also use and have used the low-income housing tax credit, which, as many of you know, is a little bit challenged right now, so that we are mixing low-income people with working people. Homeless people, and that has provided a model for our folks. And more than one person has said, I saw that person who lives next door going to work, and I thought, I could go to work. It destigmatizes the project. It allows people to live in an integrated community, and I think it's hard to do from a deal perspective, and I think there's a session on the art of the deal today. It's hard to do from a deal perspective, but it's worth doing from a deal perspective. And I want to invite you all to come to our Fair City and see our projects or visit those in other communities. I hope you can pursue that as you expand your permanent supportive housing. And then the last 2 points, coordinating with the other systems, and I know you guys are trying to do this, is coordinating between homeless system, mainstream affordable housing, hospitals, behavioral health, foster care, parole, corrections, and everybody says that's important to do. I also just want to acknowledge it's easier said than done, right? Getting a data match between, and I've worked in one jurisdiction, trying to get a data match done in one jurisdiction where we're working in, which seems completely natural, and like, why wouldn't you want to do a data match to look at your high Medicaid users who are also in the prison system, who are also in your homeless system, and they have been arguing about it for a little bit, better part of a year. Something that, one would say, if you step back, makes total sense, let's do it. So, it's easier said than done, but it's important, and keep plugging away at it. And then the final thing, and I see you guys are doing it, but I want to put my plug in for data. That looking at your data, understanding your data, understanding your outcomes, housing stability, recidivism, who's coming into the system, who's leaving the system, why are they coming back, looking at your cost, how much does this cost, how much does this service cost versus that service, how much is this outcome costing us. We've got to look at our numbers. We've really got to look at our data. I think the advent of the homeless management information system has been wonderful. You guys all love it, right? I know it's been painful, but it's one of those things, it's like I only saw, it's like your mother says, eat your vegetables, they're good for you, that kind of thing. When you're growing up, in the jurisdictions where we have been able to really look at their data, and Philadelphia is one place where we've really had the ability to analyze that data very deeply, Columbus, Ohio, we have had better insights into the work than we've had in other places. And that we've already embraced the pain of HMIS, and now we got to make sure we get the data in there so that we can look at it, because it has been surprising what we find when we really look at the numbers. And I told you a couple stories about recidivism. I'll tell you one more where the staff kept telling me in the shelter system that the average length of stay for their families was 9 months. Well, in fact, the average length of stay was 30 days, but it's the family that's been there 9 months that makes you think all these families have been here 9 months, right? Do they ever leave? Are they ever going to leave? But that piece of data was very important to our planning, and so we want to be continually embracing that and updating our strategy accordingly. And so that's all I have to say. I want to thank you for your time, and thank you for inviting me here. And please contact us if you have questions, and I'll be around all day to talk more about stuff. So thanks again.